Alright, you guys, so this video is going to be about baits that I hate to use or baits that I've never caught a fish on. So there's only two that I've never caught a fish on, and one of them I don't have with me because I think I don't have them anymore. But the first one that I've never caught a fish on is the Alabama rig. Now it's more of a rig, not a bait itself, but it is it is a bait, but it isn't. It's got the three arms. This is a Yum umbrella rig with some Yum swim baits on the outside, and then a little Zoom Junior swimming fluke there, with some just exposed jig head hooks. So yeah, I've never caught a fish on this. I've only had one fish follow it. Actually, one time at a really clear water lake, I was noticing they were busting on shad, so I casted way out there and I let it sink down a ways, and I was just burning it back to the boat, or to the dock I should say. I went on a boat. I was just burning it back, and when I lifted it up out of the water, I noticed there was like a fish that was underneath of it, and he probably was never going to end up biting it, but he followed it. Then the bait that I don't have with me here is a soft plastic lizard. I've never caught a fish on one. I've tried Texas rig. I've tried almost any way you can rig one, and I just have never caught a fish on it. So I don't know if they just don't bite them around here or what. My dad, he says that they used to bite them a long time ago, all the time. He used to catch a bunch of them on them, but now just don't catch them anymore. But now I'll go ahead and show you some of the baits that I do have with me. One is a flick shake, or wing ding, whatever you want to call it. Basically just a jig head, wacky rigged finesse worm. That there's a green pumpkin finesse worm with a little weedless jig head. I hate using wacky rigs or jig wacky rigs. I've caught fish doing it. I just hate doing it. And then there's the weightless kind of a, I don't know what kind of worm this is, but I've rigged it wrong. I don't know. I may not have rigged that worm. May have been rigged by somebody else. But yeah, I hate using these worms. These wacky rig worms. They catch fish, but I just don't like using them. Another bait that I don't like fishing anymore. I don't know if I just got sick of fishing them or what, but I honestly don't like to fish stickworms anymore. I used to use it all the time. I don't know if I just got so dependent on them that I'm sick of using them or what. I mean, I still use them every once in a while, but not very often. If I'm going to fish a weightless worm, I'll go with a trick worm over a stick worm, just because I think a trick worm is going to get a lot more bites because it's a smaller worm. And, this here's just a crazy colored Strike King shimmy stick. I don't know what the... Oh, this is called Sweet Potato Pie is the name of this color. Yeah, but that there just a stick worm. I hate using them anymore. I just got to where I don't like them anymore. Then, a bait that a lot of people like to use for a lot of different species. This thing to catch anything from bass, crappie, bluegill, all the way up to muskie, pike, and stuff like that. And I think they even use like really giant ones for like grouper in saltwater. But that is a twisty tail grub, curl tail grub, whatever you want to call it. People swear by these things up in Michigan and places like that for smallmouth. Around here, they're the smaller ones are good for like bluegill and crappie, but the bass just don't really hit them that much. Then, I love topwater and stuff, but if I had to pick a bait that I do not like to use, it would have to be a toad. I just don't like using topwater toads. I think one reason is because they're light. I like a heavier bait where I can just bomb it way out there. They're accurate to cast, though. That's one thing. They're pretty accurate to cast, but the problem with them is they're light, and they'll get you bites, but one problem is the hookup. Oh, I dropped it. The hookup ratio is not really good, but if I had to, I would fish it. I'm actually thinking about getting some white ones to represent shad. Maybe that'll work. But this here's just a Zoom horny toad. in a watermelon red flake color with a big 6/0 owner beast hook, screw lock weightless hook, and I just don't really like using them. But then the last two baits that I had to include are baits that I've caught fish doing. I've actually caught 2 fish on a lipless crank, and I've caught 3 fish on jerkbait, but I absolutely hate using them. These are literally, they're literally the last lure I will pick up in my tackle box. And that's just a lipless crank like this here. So this here is a, what is this called? Matsuo custom baits or something like that. I don't know. But it's like cheap baits. And I bought this for like $3 with a little square bill. Also, it was like a 2-pack. I think it was like $3, $4 for 2 baits. So I had to buy it. This here is kind of like a mirrored image. You know, I can put it up to my face and I can see my own reflection, which I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, I hate using lipless cranks. Then another bait that I hate to use is a jerk bait. I've never liked fishing jerk baits. This here is a BBS, a BPS, Bass Pro Shops. I think it's called the Slasher. That's what I call it because it makes really fast cuts across the water. It's a good little jerkbait. I mean, if I had to pick my favorite jerkbait out of all of my jerkbaits, it would probably be this one, just because of the action on it, and it's got some good rattles in it. But I hate using all of them, so you know, this one here would be the one that I least hate. So yeah, so that there is the baits that I have I just don't like using them. They're just not fun to use for me. You know, I'd rather use, you know, if I'm going to use a jerkbait, I'd rather use a square bill. If I'm going to use a lipless, I'd rather use a little square bill or a swim bait. If I was going to use a toad, I'd rather use a whopper plopper or a regular frog, or possibly like a swim bait, like the Florida rig swim baits with a big hook, just weightless. You know, if I'm going to fish a wacky rig or a weightless Senko, I would go with a trick worm. And if I was going to go with a grub, I would just go with a regular swim bait. And then the Alabama rig, I just don't even mess with that Alabama rig. But something that I forgot to mention in my last video, or I think, no, it wasn't my last video, but it was a couple videos ago. It was the how many species of fish have I caught or something like that video. Something that I actually forgot to mention was this bait here. This bait here, some of you older guys that like older lures may possibly know this. This is a Bill Dance Signature Series Excalibur Shallow Runner Crankbait. Now, as you can tell, it's got a lot of paint chipped off. It's got rust marks from where the hooks were rusted. I mean, it's cracks and everything. I put it on my keychain. You know, I got my Chevy logo and my bow lock and stuff like that on this keychain. This here is it says it right there. It says right here, Bill Dance Swimming Image. Then on the other side it says Excalibur Shallow Runner Crankbait. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is, I mean, you guys can hear, you got little rattles in it. But the reason why I want to talk about this real quick was this bait actually caught one of the biggest bluegill I'd ever caught. It was one of the thickest and broad bluegill. And it was just a big, muscly bluegill. And it was a big one. And, I mean, I don't know what he was thinking about hitting this big shad. I mean, it's like the size of my thumb. You know, this here is a normal 6-inch stickworm. You know, that's pretty big. You know, it's almost two of the trickworms width. You know, and it's just a shad representation is what the color is. But, you know, that bluegill, he had some guts in him because he thought he could eat that big bill shad, but he couldn't. He had the hook in his face. But, yeah, I forgot to mention that in that video, so I figured I'd mention it real quick. So, yeah, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Don't know yet what the plan's going to be. I think I'm going to go hunting in the morning. I went hunting this morning, didn't see anything. I I went hunting this evening back here because we've been seeing some deer when we ride our four-wheelers. So I thought I would step back there and see if I couldn't get one. But they just didn't show up. I don't know if it's too warm or what, but it's supposed to cool off tomorrow. It's supposed to be like a low of like 50-something, which should be pretty good. You know, it's been like in the lows of like 60s to 70s almost. And for a low, that's pretty high. So, yeah, so I think I want to go in the morning. If I do, I might try to film. I don't know if I will. You know, I might just be too, like, heavily focused on getting up in a stand and getting everything situated and all that. But if I do film, it will either be because I'm bored or because I shot something. So, yeah, it'll be one of those two. Probably because I'm bored. Because I don't know. I've only seen 4 deer this year so far. That was just one day. But I've only been hunting, like really actually hunting in a stand twice. So I guess I can't really complain that I didn't see one this morning. So hope you guys liked this video like I already said. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye.